entering the thing need on Twitter.
All right, guys, can I have your attention? It's 6:02 Tuesday night in Ubud. It's time for Bitcoin Filter. I'm just going to share my screen here for the folks online. And let's see. Bear with me here for a second. All right, there we go. Welcome, guys. Well, it's good to be back. For the last week, I was in Thailand, and we tried to do a remote show last time. Didn't quite work out. I think we got audio, but I don't know when we'll do another remote, but hopefully it'll work a little better next time. But it's good to be back. Happy to be back here in Bali. And you know, I checked out the Bitcoin scene up in Thailand. You know, they're not as far along, I don't think, as we are here in Indonesia. You know, they have a semi-regular Bitcoin meetup at the sister organization to Ubud, the Hubba place where I was working and broadcasting from last time. But they still don't have a lot of places around town that accept Bitcoin. You know, they've had their political problems, and there's been, you know, a lot of unfriendly, I don't know, official words from the regulatory bodies in Thailand. So I think they're a little bit behind us. Anyway, like I said, it's good to be back. I just wanted to say that I did use this Bitcoin tour to book my trip. I booked my flights through this. It's actually backed by Oscar's exchange on bitcoin.co.id, but it's a separate Bitcoin travel agency. If you want to spend your Bitcoins, highly recommend it. Next time you have to do a run to Singapore or Thailand or anywhere else for that matter, why not think about spending Bitcoins and then, of course, replacing them. If you want to participate in the Bitcoin economy, I think this is a good way to do it, and it works, and it worked well for me. So, good stuff from Oscar again. All right, let's look at the price. 505. I don't know if you remember last week we were at 471. So we're up almost double digits, like 7 or 8% since last week. We called this episode "Get on the Bitcoin Rollercoaster." For those of you who've gotten in the game later rather than sooner, maybe you're not used to these kinds of wild price fluctuations, but anyway, I always say as long as there's nothing technically wrong with Bitcoin, then it's fine. We can watch it go up and down. 5.8 million on Bitcoin.co.id. We're at 89 on the Bitcoin, or the this currency index that we sometimes look at. 89 meaning that there are well, out of the 190 currencies there are around the world, Bitcoin is ranked 89th. In terms of M1 money supply. So, pretty cool. Can we,
Rick had a question.
There you go. That. Can you move your screen a little bit back there?
How does that relate to
maybe you, there you go. Sorry, guys. Oh, what was that?
Stephen and I were having a discussion earlier about M1 money supply. Is M1 money supply an accurate measure of currency in circulation?
It's my understanding that that's the coins and the paper notes is what denote M1 money supply. It's about 3% of the total money supply, at least in U.S. dollars. So, you know, if you're comparing to something like U.S. dollars, it's not the greatest comparison. It doesn't count credit cards, for example, or checking accounts, other things that represent money. So it's up to you to decide if that's a good measure or not. But when you think about it, Bitcoin is like a checking account and cash. So it's kind of a new beast to be comparing it with anything. I mean, you can have it sitting in an account, or it can circulate like regular money if you're using it on your phone. So I don't know if it's a good measure or not. It's up for debate.
The reason this came up is I was hashing out numbers on how large in terms of currency in circulation is the Bitcoin economy versus national currencies. And if you look at M1 money supply, believe it or not, the Bitcoin money in circulation is actually number 5 in the world, significantly ahead of number 6, which would be the UK, and only slightly behind number 4, which is Japan. And from there it goes US, EU, China.
And that's actual banknotes that circulate?
Yes, that's correct.
Ah. Huh.
Huge numbers.
That puts things in a little bit different perspective.
Scary, isn't it?
I wonder how they measure that, because it's minor. There was some article recently where they didn't know how many $100 bills there were, and $100 bills are the most circulated note, at least in U.S. dollars, and they have no idea how many there are out there.
I think there was a bit of playing with the numbers, but these were World Bank numbers for total currency in circulation, right? So
yeah, that's fascinating.
That's not as good as the numbers you're going to get, I guess.
Yeah. Well, if you once you start using Bitcoin, you start to realize how useful it is as cash money. I mean, it's really pretty cool. I mean, you got your money on your phone, no problems with change, no problems with, especially going from country to country. I've got a bunch of Thai money in my pocket. I have no idea, a bunch of coins. Those will never get spent. There's actually, there's a term for the money that they make that never comes back, and therefore governments actually make money when they create physical money. It's called seigniorage. That could be the word of the day. Look up seigniorage. This is something that the U.S. government makes hundreds of millions of dollars in seigniorage, which is money they print, it disappears, it never comes back, and so they get the use of it, and well, anyway, it's an interesting topic, and Bitcoin is so new, I really don't know what to compare it to, but that's useful info.
Picking up on the whole seigniorage thing, there was an article that I posted in the Bitcoins in Bali Facebook forum that was just fascinating. It was an analysis of how many people actually own Bitcoin at this point in time. It's a great article. Everybody should read it. Seriously, it is fascinating. But one of the amazing stats that came out of it, half of the Bitcoins in circulation are in accounts that haven't been active in 2 or more years.
Mm-hmm.
So again, is that senior?
Is this the article that you mentioned?
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is. I plan to talk about this, but why don't we jump right in? It's fascinating. Those Bitcoins that haven't been touched in 2 or more years, it's kind of a question, are they lost? Are they just sitting on them? Satoshi's original Bitcoins have never moved from the address that they're sitting in from the very beginning. So there are fewer Bitcoins than we think there are. And there was another posting, maybe this is related. Someone was talking about how the Bitcoin ecosystem is so small that some big player come in and buy up all the Bitcoins. And the counter argument was that there's a large number of core Bitcoiners that own at least 75% and would never allow that to happen.
They would love it, though. It'd be wonders for value.
If you tried to get the point there is that if you tried to get your hands on 25% of the Bitcoin market, you'd drive the price to infinity, because essentially 75% are not for sale. Maybe if they became $1 million coin, you break into that 75% or something, but everyone's got a price. But it's I'm glad you brought this up, Rick, and it was one of the ones I wanted to talk about. The analysis, there's a lot of premise setting and a lot of guesswork, a little bit of guesswork that goes on, but you can follow his logic. He's reckoning that there's about 1.2 million people that own a little bit of Bitcoin, and it's probably more like 500,000. So between 500,000 and 1.2 million people own Bitcoin. And you can use this figure when people say, "Oh, I missed the boat with Bitcoin. I can't believe I didn't buy when it was $40. I can't believe I didn't buy when it was $200." Because this is not very many people. I mean, when you're talking about, there's 4 million people in Bali alone. I mean, if Bitcoin was just used here, you'd need 4 times as much. So,
to put that even further into perspective, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
That's 1.2 million addresses that they define as having meaningful amounts of Bitcoin, more than dust, right? But the reality is, and this is a couple of paragraphs up, almost 1 million of those have less than one full Bitcoin.
Uh-huh.
So this brings us down to 200,000 players. I mean, if we define a player as someone who owns at least one Bitcoin.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the day will come when someone will say, you have a whole Bitcoin? I mean, that's going to sound outrageous at some point in time. I mean, you figure a big city like New York has 13, 14 million people. That means everyone gets about one. That's just to service one city. I mean, this is a global currency. The use case is global. It's going to be bigger than that if it succeeds. So it's fun to think about. Anyway, I think we can expect. I've mentioned this on several shows back, but you can see that people discover Bitcoin. This is the first little blip back when people thought you could buy drugs on the internet with it anonymously.
I thought it was a house party.
Maybe there's a house party down here that you can't really see. There was a $10,000 pizza in here somewhere. But you can see that we've got one exponential bump and then another exponential bump, and this is as people are discovering it. And Willie posted this graph, and it looks kind of the same, doesn't it? But this is Google searches. This is not the price of Bitcoin. This is the Google searches related to Bitcoin. And it looks pretty similar. I think you can see the correlation there. But what I find interesting is, why do we get an exponential bump, right? Why does it go to 266 and then it bumps along, goes up here? It's because you can see that after each one, there's more people daily searching. So, you get the first kind of PR spike, and then, every day thereafter, there are more people searching. And then, a bunch of people get in and buy, and then it spikes up again. And then day by day, you've got even more people searching. And then here we are now, we're in this area right here, where every day there are exponentially more people just doing the Google search buy Bitcoin than there were back here when it went up to 266.
You overlaid that with a search for sell Bitcoin?
Is that a new coin? Sell a Bitcoin?
Huh?
No, I'm sorry. Sell. Oh yeah. Do you think this correlates? I don't know. Can I just search in search trends here?
Just add a term. You see the button in the middle, the gray box? There you go.
Sell Bitcoin. On the fly here. Oh. Not as many people are trying to figure out how to sell them yet. That's good news.
Follows the same exact trend.
Yeah. Anyway, all these people don't know the delta between here and here. All these people don't know how to sell their Bitcoin. Isn't that a?
The Australian one is a lot of.
What's that?
This is interesting too. The regional interest
Yeah.
for buy it's 100 for Australia, and United States is only 30.
Yeah, I was interested in this. I didn't know if this is a per capita figure or an all-out figure. But it is interesting that the United States is.
They normalize this data.
They normalize
so they
it.
take whoever's the highest search volume, put that at 100, and then they scale down from there.
Oh, okay. So Australia is out and out. The
Highest, yeah.
Wow, Canada's.
I'm sure it's because they're picking up on what's going on here in Bali. It's just got to be geographic proximity to all the exciting things that are going on in Ubud. I do get there's a lot of Australians that run through here, and they're often asking me like, what exchange can I buy on in Australia to use my Australian bank? And it doesn't surprise me. All right. Here's another good post. This is a short but good one. Will, you posted this one, your little exchange about presumably someone was asking you for money and you asked if you could pay in Bitcoin. And they said, no, dude, real money. And then you had to like school them on what real money was. Yes, this is a good addition. What's interesting is there was a guy that came to a meeting early on. This is one of the first Bitcoin filter meetings we had, and he was Russian, and he referred to real money, and what he was talking about was U.S. dollars. He said that he had grown up in a time when U.S. dollars circulated in Russia as money during a time when it was banned, when the U.S. dollar was banned in Russia, and so if you wanted to pay a debt in quote real money, you circulated dollars. And I believe that's where a lot of those $100 bills that we were talking about are located. Anyway, this was good. All U.S. money is pre-mined, by the way. If you want to compare it to Bitcoin. All right. What's next? Bullion dealer Amaji Metals to stop accepting fiat currency.
PR pull.
I saved that image.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you know, it's interesting because I have actually used this service to buy gold, right? And I've actually used other services to buy gold, and it's an interesting use case when you're talking about buying gold, because when you do buy gold, it's money for money, but the money you're getting is actual physical gold, and the money you're giving them has all this counterparty risk. So it's actually very difficult to buy gold with something other than gold or Bitcoin, because there's all this counterparty risk that the bullion dealer has to assume when they're selling gold. So if you use your credit card to buy gold, then they have to wait for they have to either have you sign some special agreement or have to wait for the period after which you can contest the purchase expires, right? Because if you buy gold, you get the gold, and then all of a sudden you tell your credit card company, hey, these guys scammed me, then they get their money tied up for an inordinate amount of time. And depending on the banks involved and the credit card companies, I mean, this can go on for months and months. Likewise with a check, you send them a check, they have to wait for your check to clear, and while they're waiting for your check to clear, days go by, and you have to wait to finish the transaction. And I don't know if you guys ever follow a guy named Peter Schiff. He's a big gold guy, and he has a radio talk show and a company similar to this, Amaji Metals, and he started accepting Bitcoin, and he was a big Bitcoin naysayer, and he said, well, I'll accept Bitcoin because I'm just going to convert it right into dollars anyway, and if somebody wants to pay me with goats and I can turn it into dollars, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't mean I'm endorsing Bitcoin. But after he turned on the Bitcoin button on his website, something occurred to him, and that was that there were no chargebacks. There was no counterparty risk. When he had the Bitcoin, he actually had the Bitcoin verified by the Bitcoin network, and he could release the gold right away. So he could service his customers way more quickly than he could otherwise do. And so it makes sense in this market. So I agree, these guys get a marketing bump, but it also, I wonder what other businesses might benefit from that dynamic. I used to, my background is in card-not-present internet payments technology, and you wouldn't believe the hoops that companies go through to reduce fraud and to convince credit card companies that they're doing what they can to reduce fraud, and dealing with chargebacks. I mean, whole call centers full of people answering questions about credit card chargebacks. I mean, it's the overhead is incredible. Now, this also creates a problem for the user, because if you give your Bitcoins away, you have no way of ensuring that something comes back to you. Or if somebody sends you a product and then it's defective a week later, what recourse do you have? People are used to having their credit card companies to call when that happens. Well, you don't have that anymore, but I presume people are tackling this problem. I'm sure it exists already. I just haven't done the research. But right now, if you buy something with Bitcoin and that something isn't something that you were expecting, then you're out of luck. So anyway, something to think about. All right. Here's another one. This was I thought this was cool because it was posted on Bitcoins in Bali in Bahasa Indonesia.
Malaysia.
Was that Malaysian language?
It's very close.
Okay. Because I knew it was about Malaysia, but I thought it might be in Indonesian. That's interesting. So it's a gas station that accepts Bitcoin. I even plugged this into the Indonesian translator in Google Translate, and yeah. Anyway, they've got that's a very large "we accept Bitcoin" sign. So they're doing some advertising. This guy obviously just filled up his tank. There's another equally large Bitcoin accepted here. So you were just playing too small, Peter, when you made your accept Bitcoin. You just weren't thinking big enough. It's cool that a petrol station is accepting Bitcoin. I wish a petrol station here accepted Bitcoin. But aren't the gas companies here? Isn't it the state-owned gas? Yeah.
They have some others as well too, but in Jakarta.
Yeah. I'd love to fill up with Bitcoin.
How about the guy selling the low-grade petrol out of the Coke bottle on the side?
Yeah, maybe we can sign some of those up. Yeah, yes. Get on it. All right, here's another one that was interesting. Black Market Cannabis Road. This was, there's been a lot of talk about pot lately. There's Potcoin, and in the United States, in Colorado, and in Washington State, cannabis and pot is now legal. But those businesses have had trouble dealing with the banks, so they've resorted to Bitcoin and used Bitcoin as the medium of exchange for pot in those states where it's legal to sell pot, but they can't establish a banking relationship. This is something different. This is the deep web, the dark web, onion addresses. This was a marketplace that existed kind of like Silk Road did, using the deep web, where you had to essentially have a specialized browser configuration to even visit these sites on the internet. But what was interesting was, these guys had their Bitcoin stolen, and it was after they implemented two-factor authentication. The whole story is here. You can read about it. The itself changed hands because of security concerns. So they were very security conscious, and yet they were hacked. They had about $100,000 worth of Bitcoin stolen. There's a very contrite letter here from the person who presumably organized the site. This is all done anonymously, so we don't really know. And that's another thing about Bitcoin thefts. You never know if it's actually a theft or if it's some owner that decided he's made enough money with his little dark web site, and he's going to disappear and say the Bitcoins were stolen, and off he goes. Unfortunately, there's no way to tell. It's actually very disconcerting. For someone who runs an exchange, if you get hacked, your users do not know if it was you that stole their Bitcoin or somebody else. Or if you're the owner of the exchange, you don't know if one of your employees compromised your systems and stole the Bitcoin. So it's a part of the wild, wild west of Bitcoin, I guess.
And part of the nature of it being dark web currency, that you're kind of dealing with people, like that's where the hackers pretty much exist.
Yeah.
It's kind of like playing in the same sphere almost.
Yeah, live by the sword, die by the sword kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, it's interesting. This has happened a few times, and we're going to get to the NXT story in a second. But, this happens amongst hackers and amongst the computer people, and they've also got their own way of their own justice that they seek. And I'll tell you what, I don't think I'd be wanting to steal from people who run a dark web drug site, but anyway.
They barter.
Yeah, yes. All right, moving along.
Well, marijuana people are peaceful.
They are. They're too busy looking for the potato chips to to put out a bounty on their pot coin. Okay. Next story. We've got the story of NXT. Right. And this is an altcoin. This is not Bitcoin. This is actually another altcoin that was built brand new from the ground up. It even has its own anonymous founder, BT Next. So it's kind of a cool project. If you haven't looked at it already, it deserves a look. They are radically decentralized. The person that runs the forum is not the same person that runs the GitHub site. Is not the same person that is writing the white paper. It's proudly a headless beast, right? That's the story behind NXT. The other interesting thing about NXT is, aside from being a coin, it's also a communication network, and that plays in the story as well. What happened here was somebody broke into one of the big exchanges, BTER, I think it's called. BTER, I don't know how to pronounce that. And Beater, maybe better? Beater. It's certainly not better. People aren't calling it better these days after they got hacked. But essentially somebody broke in and stole $1.7 million worth of NXT. NXT is probably 4th, 5th, 6th biggest cryptocurrency in terms of market capitalization, so it's one of the big ones. They got their hands on a couple $1 million, and the interesting thing, though, is because there's a communication network associated with it, they were able to communicate with this guy that stole the NXT, right? And he came back. He's this guy named is it Mr. Sir?
The Sir.
Or the Sir. And he came back and he said, guys, this guy running BTER is an idiot. He basically tells how he broke into the site, and he says he's been using the same password for everything, which is a big no-no. I wanted to take this opportunity to make the point that if you use the same password for a bunch of sites all over the internet, then those sites that share the same word or a variation on that word can very likely be hacked. So, maybe you can take this as a warning. Develop for yourself a password regime that you follow to the letter, like a pre-flight checklist to make sure that you're creating your passwords and saving your passwords where you can find them. I actually had a friend call me, a friend that I had given Bitcoin to well over a year ago. I had given him some Bitcoin, and he could not remember his blockchain.info password. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because you're like, okay, you gotta come up with a good password for this. Like, make something that don't use one of your old passwords. Like, write it down, put it someplace safe. You can only do that so much, though. And this person had created a password that they couldn't remember. And so, guess what? When that happens, blockchain.info keeps your password, but it's encrypted with your password. So it keeps your public key or your private keys, but it's encrypted with your password. If you forget your blockchain.info password, you're pretty well done. So we're talking about passwords here. This guy was wildly too lax with his passwords. You can also be too smart by half if you create something that you can't remember later. That's why it's good to have your own system and one that you can remember, and that one that someone you trust knows as well. So anyway, the story goes on, and the other interesting thing that I wanted to mention about this story is these are consensus systems. The blockchain, and NXT uses a blockchain as well. It's only a way to come to agreement on who owns what. So if a majority of the population of people that use NXT decide they want to roll back the blockchain to before when this guy stole it, they can do that. I mean, it's technically possible. And they actually considered doing that with NXT, basically rolling back all the transactions and starting again from before the time that this guy stole all the NXT. And when you think about that, this is we're still trying to figure this out as a society, but it's an interesting problem that illustrates some very interesting aspects of cryptocurrency, and that is that it's more than just the technology. It's people's faith in the technology, I'll make a long story short and tell you that they decided not to roll back the currency to this previous state.
I voted for that.
Yeah, and it's so you voted, like you actually had some NXT and voted, or did you chime in on the forums?
Just chiming in. They didn't have an official, because it was not officially, they decided to not do it officially, but it would still be possible for consensus to force a rollback, and so that was going through the forum. That was about 75 pages deep, and everyone in that, like they say, their first few pages were supporting it, and then everyone else was like, no way, this is a dumb idea, you know.
Yeah.
It's their loss. It's none of our losses. So,
Right.
You know, this is not affecting the structure of NXT, so it's their fault.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's cool that that's the consensus decision that was reached, and you know, changes cannot happen unless there's a consensus. And well, actually, a decision was made, a decision not to do anything. But it's just fascinating that the community takes care of itself, and you know, the decision really to not roll back was an acknowledgement that this stuff is more than just technology. It's the sociology that goes along with it. It's the understanding that the system has integrity, and that you can't, because something was stolen, you can't just go back and rewrite history.
Yeah, because NXT is going to be changing its security to up it. Like right now, I think it's still around preventing the 51%, but they're going to raise that up to 90%. So they didn't want to establish a precedent. They're like, why would we do it now? But we know that when we know that in a year's time, if some other idiot exchange operator gets hacked, that we won't be able to roll it back. So they didn't want that that dichotomy or the contradiction.
Right.
So
right.
Like, no, let's just stick with it.
Well, and I believe this has happened with other coins, smaller coins. It would have been interesting to see what would happen on a coin so large in the ecosystem if it had made that decision to roll back, if we would have seen it die or not. That would have been an interesting thing to watch. But I'm glad they made the decision they do, and I think it speaks a lot to the community. And also, like I said, these guys are wildly, almost theologically decentralized. These guys are decentralized. That is their religion. And they came up with a decision that I would agree with. So it's pretty cool. It's a little bit of a long read, but I mean, it's really interesting if you understand all the stuff that they're talking about. There's all kinds of psychology and sociology and technology all wrapped up in this story. It's never dull with cryptocurrency, is it?
No, there's another one I really want to bring up too, which is on CoinMarketCap. Something big has just happened with Ripple.
Oh, really?
That we just noticed, and we just took a quick look here.
$100 million jump today,
In Ripple.
straight up.
I think it's a mistake.
Straight, massive. You should see the chart on like.
Can I pull it up?
Coins in circulation jumped, and then if you worked it out, it was like they don't match. Like I think it's a bug in the site.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that because they
It
announced
seems really
direct purchase in US dollars at the banks? Today with Ripple, right?
CoinMarketCap shows them down 2.7%.
Yeah.
but
the
if
cap
you
went up.
open it up and look at the chart, it's like a cliff wall.
The market cap shot up, and then you look at the coins in circulations, that shot up, but the percentage shooting up of the coins in circulation didn't match the market cap.
Here's the 7-day chart.
Yeah, chart's a bit of an eye opener, isn't it?
Yeah, there's something that the eye gets drawn here for some reason.
So take a look at the went from 0.0950 to 107. So that's like a 10% increase in coins in circulation. Market cap went from 40 million to 140 million. So there's an error. It's probably a bug in the site. Those numbers don't add up.
Huh.
Maybe it's a hysterical guy that dropped the rest of his cash.
And meanwhile, yeah,
Would you call them up and send them an
everybody's
email? By
buying.
the way, we've got 140 million capital, not 40. Your site's going up. Oh yeah, fix it right now.
But on this site, they only, in order to get the price, all they do is divide the cap by the available supply. So they're just doing the math directly on here. So I don't know if the market cap is a mistake or what, but I thought it might have had something to do with BitShares X because BitShares X was taking such a huge climb in the last 4 or 5 days. It was up to 100. That's how as high as 113 today. And then Ripple was they basically leapfrogged Ripple. So maybe somebody was like, hey, it's time for us to put $100 million into Ripple.
Line of credit.
I don't know.
I don't know. It would be. Don't you wish you were Bill Gates and you had like $36 billion in your back pocket and could just run around like making people like us like get our hair caught on fire? I mean, it would be so much fun. You could just like. Anyway, as if it wouldn't be fun already to have $36 billion laying around.
Is it only 36 now?
Yeah, I think that's an old figure. I think. This is pretty cool. This is, we don't always talk about Bitcoins and charity, but some studies I have seen show that the greatest spending of Bitcoins is on charity donations. And antiwar.com, the story goes back a long way, but there were people that stopped donating to antiwar.com because antiwar.com was forced to, through their relationships with the credit card companies, to divulge who was donating to them. So they've had a recent push to accept Bitcoin as for donations, and you can see that there was a Roger Ver, also known as the Bitcoin Jesus, pledged a $10,000 match on this antiwar.com push to accept Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is great for charity. This is Bitcoin allowed WikiLeaks to stay in business when there was a virtual financial embargo against them. PayPal, Visa, MasterCard shut down WikiLeaks' ability to accept donations, and it was Bitcoin donations and also the subsequent rise in the value of Bitcoin that kept WikiLeaks afloat during that time when they had been accused and convicted of no crime, but they had a financial embargo placed against them. I really believe that people should be able to give money to any cause they see fit, and Bitcoin is great for that. And people should be able to donate anonymously. If you think that someone's going to treat you differently because you've donated to some place like antiwar.com or WikiLeaks, I believe that it's an individual right to be able to give money without fear of retribution to support things that they believe in. Another thing that's very cool about Bitcoin donations is you can, because it's a public ledger, you can come and take a look at exactly how much money has been donated, and to that address that they're advertising on, it's way over the $10,000 match limit, currently $68,000.
It's so cool. They don't even need to build a site counter. It just link off to the blockchain.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. It's really interesting because it's almost like voting, because you can see how much what people think of something like antiwar.com. If we came here and it was like $800 or something, then it would be a different commentary on what's going on at antiwar.com, for example.
How do you get listed?
How to get listed?
Yeah, like how does antiwar.com get listed? It's linked with its address.
That's a good question. I don't know. They must declare their address somewhere with some registry, and blockchain happens to know about it. I really don't know. That's a good question.
When you set up your wallet, like even multi-bit and stuff, and you you can type in text like what this is for. That shows up at blockchain.info. That'll track that and show that like that.
Yeah, I've done that on blockchain.info, but I thought that was a private view. Or is there?
Oh,
if I put like my mistress fund, then it's gonna that's what's.
That's public in the blockchain.
Yeah.
That's what shows up. So.
Well, I know there's a public note.
Yeah.
Like when you're making a payment, you can attach a public note. But I haven't seen where it's a function of the blockchain where you can name a wallet, and the name of the wallet is.
Oh no! I think probably just not the public note part. But when I take payments for one certain thing, I always put that there, but it always shows up like this in the blockchain.
Like this is an address that has this name associated with it, and that's because you do that.
You can set that up in the wallet. I mean, that's with multi. I'm just using multi-bit for example.
I'd be curious on how that works. I mean, I know that there are wallet registries, and I know that you can do that in blockchain.info, and I wasn't sure if it was public or private, like when we have our address book, but it'd be interesting. It's almost like having that little blue badge in Twitter or something, or like you're asserting that this is me. There's a need for that. To assert that the money that's going to a certain address is actually going to the address in question or to the person or the cause in question. And I really don't know how that's done officially.
I think it's manually by the staff at blockchain.
Yeah. So it's not part of the Bitcoin protocol that you can name a wallet or there's some sort of DNS-like system for addresses.
That blockchain, they're just going anti-voice, sending them on their addresses and saying, post this as...
Yeah. Yeah, because it happens with other things too. Like if you go to their main site, you can see like Satoshi Bones and ghash.io. You see this is like the latest transactions, and every once in a while there are ones that pop up that are denoted basically. But I don't know how that works.
Can you flick over to the anti-war tally? I'm just going to send $1 that way.
Which one? This one?
The anti-war, the blockchain counter.
Oh.
Is that it there?
That's here, I think, is their address.
Is
That right? Yep.
Address 98.
Yeah. Hey, all right. Nice job. That was fast.
Oh, that was $1 New Zealand. I think that's exchange rate. That's great.
Anyway, that's cool. Well, that is all the news items that I had on tap for tonight. We're a bit early. It's a trim back affair, I'm afraid. But maybe there's some other things you guys would like to raise with our last 15 minutes.
Talk about shares X.
We'll do a couple of just the last week. Created a couple of coins on top of Counterparty.
Uh-huh.
One is the Chi coin, with Theo, who runs the Chigun up in
Yeah.
streets there.
So these are coins that you created using Counterparty.
Yeah, so we created 3 assets. One is for the Chi coin. I can elaborate about it. We're starting with Bitcoin. It's very new, so we haven't got a sign up or anything like that.
Okay.
To figure out issuance and all that. The other one is for a Frederick's energy coin for sponsoring the Humogen.
Ah, okay. Ah, very cool. So a free energy effort here in Bali with an associated coin for fundraising purposes. Is that right?
So he needs to accept funds. So pretty much what will happen, people will donate to the Bitcoin address, which is a counterparty address. In return, it's not public yet, so it's not a IPO or anything like that, or a part of shares. So in return, he will issue energy coins for the donators, and later on it'll be a bit more official as to what each fund goes for, because at the moment people are donating anyways. So it's just a Bitcoin address with extra functionality. So a credit or a vote or which direction can be added to it. So it's very early days.
Has he said anything about what might become available for that asset later on? Like, can I get my own free energy machine?
That's kind of the talk as parts, the energy machine, sponsoring kind of bounties, guys that need to do things, their time need to be paid in some way or another.
Gotcha.
So I think that's kind of what the guy's trying to do. It's also really good to be off fiat for him because they can't be stopped.
Right. No, that's great. That's cool. We'll put if you got any, we'll put notes in the show notes about that. If you got anything, just make sure we get it.
Of course, at the moment these URLs I'll stick them.
Okay. Cool.
What else? So those two.
You said there were 3 assets?
Yeah, the other one's the seed coin. It's just got to do with Donna, the lady that spoke on.
For the seed bank?
Friday, yeah, for the seed banks. Also early days, so it's just the assets are created, but most likely what's interesting is LTB coins open source their CMS system.
Right, yes.
It's really nice, so it'll be a very nice thing to go on top of that if you have a copy of that.
Yeah, that's something that I've been talking with Hubud about because they've got actually they're launching a media company as well with content and content creators. And I hadn't looked at the source code, but I knew they were going to open source the content management system behind LTB Coin. Is that correct?
So I think it went up a very last week or sometime, but it's not
That's
yet
big
out.
news. That's big news. Yeah, very cool.
If you need. It looks very nice, and I think they're going to add one of the things to do is like a product list, which will give it quite a bit of nice functionality for other companies.
Yeah. Well, I've been using their platform just as a user, and it's nice. It's great.
It is nice.
It's very cool of them to open source that.
Yeah.
I think that's yeah, very, very cool. So we've got some cool things going on. We got the asset with seeds as backing, the asset with free energy as backing, and there's the third one that.
To do with.
Yeah, can you tell us about your organization?
Qigong.
Oh, Qigong, like the Asian Chinese. Yeah. Oh, okay. Excellent. And you have a center for it, or?
Yeah, in Jalan Gotama.
Jalan Gotama, there's a Qigong center.
Yeah, I've got Seeds of Life Cafe.
Ah.
Yeah, and I'm the owner of the center called Seeds of Life as well.
Excellent.
This cafe.
I'll be a customer. I love that place. Seeds of Life. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get all the Qigong and martial arts teachers around. I'm a big network of China teachers, so I'm trying to get them to all create a going in Qigong.
Yeah, on the Qi coin, redeemable for martial arts and classes and yeah. No, I love that idea. That's very cool. Very cool. All right. Anything else, Peter? Is that it?
My side.
So.
Yeah, the perma credits also a asset class on top of
Counterparty.
I think that about four odd weeks from release, I saw. I posted it on the Stonebox site. I believe they had like a very nice UX for the mobile device, but it looked like for the interface.
Permacredits being another sustainable farming effort with its own asset class.
Correct. So it's an asset class that supports a permaculture.
Mm-hmm.
Permaculture is quite a global movement with very set principles. So I think it's definitely an interesting one.
They've also always had an affiliation with alternative currencies. I mean, they've had permacredits going back 20, or permacredit systems going back about 20 years or more.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, like Land Pair and Western Australia parts. And
yeah, quite right. And I think Adam Levine from LTB Coins is also part of the permacredits.
Right. I'm aware of that.
Putting it together. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that altcoins and before altcoins, alternative currencies were associated with, basically community resiliency and decentralization, right? And then the permacredits.
The technology to be able to do that.
Right. Well, and then the permacredits and things like that are a way of decentralizing the way we create food. It all seems to me to be related. I'm not surprised that people who are interested in sustainable farming show up at these meetings, or who are interested in sustainable energy show up in these meetings, because it's all part of the bigger mega trend, which is, we can do things locally for ourselves and don't have to be reliant on these large hierarchical structures that really are not scalable for the entire planet. Currency, food, and energy. Decentralizing those things, I think, is very important. It's not. I'm not surprised when those same people show up in the same circles.
Yeah, and they have common things. They have common traits. They're both disruptive by nature. So permaculture is disrupting your monoculture agriculture, whereas Bitcoin is disrupting your
Right.
centralized currency system. So
Right.
They have similar traits. Like what's his name? Was it? I can't remember the guy who did the video about the Russia coin. They show biological traits.
Yeah, it's part of a natural phenomenon. Yes, fascinating. Very cool.
BitShares X.
Yeah, tell me. I don't know what happened.
Last week at the meeting, I think the market cap was like 12 million. And actually been looking at altcoins and the market cap for, how high they get and, whether they're pumping up or whatever, but it's gone all the way up. The highest I've seen is 113 million in a week.
Oh, wow.
So
29%.
Basically been doing 30% to 50% a day for the last 7 days.
Yeah, and sometimes it like kind of goes up and like plateaus a little bit, and or maybe the dump a little bit, but it's been going up, obviously, and it went down recently. I don't know what the deal is with Ripple. I mean, I just refreshed here, and I was like, wow. It was, it was number 3, but then that 100 million kind of influx really changed things. But it's poised to. They were saying that they were going to pass Litecoin by the middle of September, but that might actually happen by the beginning of September at this rate.
That's based on this 30% a day increase?
Yeah,
Has anyone got on this train yet?
I have.
Yeah,
I have a
good work.
450% return. Well, I guess it's a little less than 400% now because I got in at about 25 million. So it's at 30 now.
Nice one.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
And why is this happening?
BitShares X is a really interesting altcoin. I kind of looked at after last week. I kind of looked at I bought a little bit of Ethereum, and I looked at that. It was interesting, and I posted it online. And I looked at Dogecoin because it had like a really high rating on a website that you had recommended to me, one that like ranked all different kinds of factors, like social factors and stuff. And when I looked at Dogecoin, I was like, it didn't make any sense. It was like a tipping thing on Reddit. And I was like, this is dumb. No one's ever going to make money with this. And
33.
Well, today. Yeah, it is kind of going up. It was, it started at 10 million or whatever.
Look at that graph. It's like.
Right, today. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's a correction day or something like that.
But if you look at BitShares, you might want to check out BitShares X website. It's a cool website. And some of the technology that they're putting forth is might revolutionize how like cryptocurrencies. For example, the transaction time is 10 seconds, not 10 minutes. It's truly anonymous, whereas Bitcoin has anonymity issues. It's not a mineable currency, so you can see it's a little less than 2 billion shares. So it went from and what happens is it burns shares every time you do a transaction. So they get reinvested. The fees get reinvested back into the shareholders. So that's another thing.
What's that called? Is that proof of stake, or is that is there a name for that mechanism?
Another modification of proof of stake.
Okay.
I think there was another one.
That's like proto-sheets. That used to be proto-sheets, wasn't it?
I'm sorry?
Is that the old proto-sheets?
ProtoShares. Daniel Larimer?
Oh, Daniel
Is
Larimer.
that the guy?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is that it's not proof of work. It's they're calling it delegated proof of stake. So they have these delegates who have stake, who have large enough stake in the in the currency, who are actually proving the transactions. And there was an interesting thing on the wiki that they have about how it actually reduces like weight, like the load of transactional weight on those who are doing the transactions, and it can keep away that 51% kind of tip. I can't speak that eloquently on it, but.
So basically fixing a bunch of long-standing Bitcoin problems. If you were a Bitcoin critic, those are all the things, those are all the classic criticisms of Bitcoin.
Plus, a very big kicker. This BitShares X wants to be like a bank, like an international exchange. So they're going to allow you to long and short various types of assets. So oil, gold, silver, everything, and the collateral are what they're calling BitShares. And you need BitShares X, the currency, to buy BitShares.
To get the collateral to basically do leveraged trading?
That's exactly right. So you'll be able to get like BitBTC, which will allow you to do leverage trading on Bitcoin.
Oh boy.
It's
yeah. So I'm really interested in it, and I've got it. I haven't purchased any. I mean, I have a wallet set up, but I was doing due diligence late last night, and you can only buy it through the four Chinese exchanges. 2 of them have been seriously hacked already. Ether, that we talked about earlier, There was another one as well, too.
Only on Chinese exchanges.
Yeah. And there was another one that in Hong Kong that I signed, that I got my account set up in preparation to think about buying it, but I found a lot of really negative press because they're aiming for dollar parity. So it's a you know, 5 cents a share now, and they want it to be $1 a share.
They want it to be $2 to $5.
But is it market driven? Who cares? I mean, who decides what they want?
Well, that's what they're saying. Is their aim is $2 to $5, but eventually
they want it to be related to, like, if you buy a barrel of oil for $100, they want BitShares X to be also valued at $100.
That's a weird
Are they
thing.
talking about a peg?
It's like really, yeah. He's talking. So Dan Larimer's been talking about peg management.
And
So
is
they
it?
want to run
Are they gonna?
at 1-to-1 par.
My mind is
I
like.
haven't heard that, but I've heard about the market thing that they want to do for various assets.
Well,
or that it's just going to happen naturally.
I've been following a discussion where he's talking now. Like Dan Larimer's been responding to this guy's questions and stuff.
Well, I'll tell you what. If these guys do 30% for the next 7 days,
Yeah.
then we'll go in depth on BitShares next time. Not that we're like crazy about making money, but if it's moving that much, there could be
It's only 1 month old, which I think is kind of the amazing part. Litecoin's got to be what I mean.
That came out right after Bitcoin.
Right,
Basically.
so it's a couple years old, or like what, 4 years old
Yeah.
or something. And you know, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong because you know way more about this, but I think it's probably the fastest moving cryptocurrency so far. My buddy is actually doing the marketing for it. It was the only reason that I knew about it. So like they're geniuses, you know, on the tech side, and he's kind of helping him with the marketing.
Sounds like they got some good marketing as well.
He owns a pretty badass PR agency for the internet.
But there's also a lot of margin trading, like with the flash crash that happened because of when the margin calls came in on the other Chinese exchange. You know,
Well, that's
really getting into
That's
the derivative side of
yeah.
Bitcoin exchange, which is for better or worse. Is
If you look at
behind
this,
us, too.
5 million volume today actually did more volume than Litecoin today.
Uh-huh.
So this, and
Ripple.
look, it did a third of the volume of Bitcoin. So it's just, I'm excited about my investment. Let's just say that.
Have you actually tried selling any of the BitShares X?
Oh no. Why would I try to sell it?
To find out if you can get your money out.
Out of the Chinese exchange.
It just went down 20 million, so I think it wouldn't have a problem exchanging. Yeah, on the exchange.
2 of the exchanges are really good. Like I was concerned about dealing with the Chinese exchange, so I did the due diligence on the exchange as well. And one of them's good. You know, 2 of the 4.
Is it just
Bologna
out to
X,
BTC
Hong Kong.
or to dollar or won? You just trade.
You can actually trade on any of those exchanges for any of the other cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
But I can't go from US dollars on Poloniex to BitShares X because US dollars is not on that exchange.
Right.
But yeah, so it's very interesting. I think that now they're relating all the prices back to Bitcoin, whereas Bitcoin's being related to US dollars.
Right.
So all these altcoins are being related to Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is the gateway drug into that whole world of altcoin mayhem, and I hope you get filthy rich.
Thanks.
All right, with that, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks for coming tonight. We'll be back again next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, just like we always are. And I just wanted to mention that we do have the Bitcoin 101 coming up on September 13th. And then that's English, and then September 20th in Indonesian, Bahasa Indonesia. Anyway, that's it for tonight, folks. Check up on Bitcoins in Bali. Post your news stories there, and we'll see you again next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. Thanks, guys.
On Poloniex?
No, on, still BitShares X.